Millions of years ago, before the first human ever drew a single breath, this world belonged to something very different. The sky was thicker than we know it today. The forests were pitch black, the soil raw and untamed. And deep within this savage world, there was a creature whose heavy footsteps shook the earth, leaving nothing but silence in its wake. Even the mere sound of its approach was enough to send every living thing into a panic. Some scrambled for cover. Some hid. And some simply ran out of time. This creature was no legend, no myth. It was real, built from blood and bone, slowly perfected by millions of years of evolution. Armored, three-horned, a machine of raw power weighing several tons. Its name was Triceratops, and for most of us, that's where the story ends. 3 horns, a big dinosaur. That's it. But today, on this channel, you're going to truly meet it for the first time, because everything you thought you knew about this ancient ruler, every picture you've seen, every fact you remember, is merely scratching the surface of its true story. Get ready to truly meet it for the first time. But how did the world first come to know this giant creature? In 1887, in the state of Colorado, a group of workers were digging through the earth when they stumbled upon something strange. First came a large, heavy piece of bone, then another, then another. The workers had no idea what they had found, but they knew one thing for certain. Whatever it was no ordinary discovery. The bones were too large, too old, and unlike anything they had ever seen before. When the fragments reached paleontologist Othniel Charles Marsh, he stood in silence for a long time, just staring, because what he held in his hands belonged to something he had never encountered before. Marsh gave that creature a name: Triceratops. In Greek, the meaning was simple yet striking: 3-horned face. And from that day forward, the world began to wake up to the existence of a giant that had once ruled these very lands millions of years ago. But the few bone fragments Marsh held that day were, in truth, just the visible tip of a massive iceberg. Because the real story of this creature was still waiting to be uncovered, far deeper beneath the earth. Have you ever stopped to think, how does a creature hidden underground for thousands of years become an icon we can still barely understand today? The truth is, the story you're about to hear will redefine everything you thought you knew about this magnificent creature. The adventure begins now. If you enjoy uncovering ancient stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because this is only the beginning. But despite having a name, Triceratops remained a mystery. For years, scientists struggled to piece together its true form. The first bone fragments discovered were repeatedly misidentified, mistaken for belonging to other species. The earliest reconstructions were riddled with errors. Bones were placed in the wrong positions. Features were misunderstood. This creature was so unlike anything known before that its very existence almost seemed impossible. Some scientists even questioned whether an animal like this could truly have existed the way science was describing it. Some even suggested that the bones recovered might actually belong to 2 or 3 different animals. The confusion was so great that, for years, Triceratops remained nothing more than a subject of debate within the scientific world. Some researchers even claimed these bones belonged to a giant species of bison. For years, even the skeletons displayed in museums varied wildly from one another, often assembled incorrectly. But here's the fascinating part. The fossils in Marsh's hands were nowhere near enough to reveal what Triceratops truly was, because the real secrets of this creature were still buried deep beneath the earth, waiting in silence. And perhaps more importantly, have you ever stopped to question just how little we still know about it? Because what was about to be uncovered would silence every doubt. If you also find this scientific confusion fascinating, don't forget to like this video. Years after Marsh first identified that fossil, as scientists began to better understand the skeleton of Triceratops, the first thing that stopped them in their tracks was the skull. And that skull was something truly mind-boggling. Because on the head of Triceratops, there were exactly 3 horns. 2 of them rose just above its eyes, reaching toward the sky, nearly a meter in length. Massive. The third sat directly above its nose, shorter but every bit as powerful. Now, think about this for a moment. As we uncover the secrets of this creature's anatomy, you'll realize these horns weren't just for defense and territorial display. They were the first clue to a creature far more complex than we ever imagined. What would any creature feel coming face to face with those horns? Even the sight alone was enough to make anything that dared approach back away. But Triceratops didn't carry those horns just for show. When threatened, it would lower its head, plant its feet into the ground, and turn its full weight, tons of it, toward its rival. Whatever stood in its way had no choice but to back down. In fact, scientists have found marks on some T-Rex bones consistent with interactions involving Triceratops's defensive structures. Meaning, even the most famous predator the world has ever known was forced to retreat in front of this creature. And that raises a question. If Triceratops could push back a T-Rex with these structures alone, just imagine what the rest of that skull was capable of. If you're finding this video interesting, don't forget to subscribe. And right here, we go far beyond what we thought we knew, into much deeper territory. Because the head of Triceratops wasn't just about those 3 horns. Behind its head, stretching along its neck, sat an enormous bony shield, and this protective frill. At first glance, looked like nothing more than armor. But over the years, scientists realized this structure was so much more. Think about it. Millions of years ago, when 2 Triceratops came face to face, what passed between them wasn't just a show of strength. Those frills were turned toward each other, their colors perhaps vivid, perhaps bright, perhaps impossible to ignore. Because research revealed traces of blood vessels across the surface of that frill. What did that mean? This frill could change color, just like some reptiles do today. Was there a threat nearby? The frill flushed red. Was it mating season? The frill lit up, trying to establish dominance within the herd. The frill did the talking. Some scientists even believe the frill may have played a role in thermoregulation, acting almost like a radiator to help release excess heat from the body. So this structure wasn't designed for a single purpose. It functioned almost like a multi-purpose tool. So Triceratops wasn't just confronting rivals, it was communicating, silently, but with remarkable effectiveness. And this is something most people never even consider. When people think of Triceratops, they always picture those horns. But the real wonder was the secret hidden behind that frill. Even the small bumps along the edges of the frill, according to some researchers, may have functioned almost like a distinguishing signature between individuals. So, did you already know this? Or had you always seen Triceratops as nothing more than a powerful creature? Write it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. So, what kind of body carried all of that magnificent head? The answer to that question was the key to truly understanding Triceratops. Because this creature wasn't just large, it was practically an engineering marvel by design. We're talking about a body that could reach nearly 9 meters from end to end, weighing anywhere between 6 and 12 tons. But the truly fascinating part wasn't its size, it was its structure. Triceratops's legs were different from most other dinosaurs. Its front legs were slightly splayed outward, powerful and short. This gave it extraordinary balance. Think about it. How did a 9-meter, 12-ton creature stay standing while carrying that enormous head? Those legs are how. Those legs weren't built just for walking, but for standing firm against rivals. When a T-Rex approached, what did Triceratops do? It didn't run. It turned, it planted its feet into the ground, and shifted its weight forward. And in that position, that massive head became a shield, and those horns became a deterrent force. So the body of Triceratops didn't develop this way by accident. Every single centimeter of it was shaped perfectly for one purpose: survival. Have you ever stopped to think how incredible it is that evolution could design a creature this perfectly over millions of years? But Triceratops's size and power didn't only show themselves when confronting rivals. They showed themselves at mealtime too, because this dinosaur's mouth was every bit as impressive as its horns. Triceratops's jaw was stronger than any land animal alive today could compare to. At the front of its mouth was a hard, beak-like structure. And this beak could easily snap off rock-hard plants, thick branches, even the toughest vegetation. But what will truly surprise you was its teeth. Triceratops's mouth held hundreds of teeth, and as these teeth wore down, new ones grew in to replace them. Triceratops was never left toothless. Throughout its life, it constantly produced new teeth. Think about it for a moment. We humans change our teeth twice, once as children, once as adults. And that's it. But for Triceratops, this process never stopped. It was as if nature had told it, "You're going to eat so much, chew so much, that you'll need an endless supply of teeth." And Triceratops did exactly that. Every single day, it had to consume tons of plant matter to fuel that massive body. And this need forced it to keep moving constantly, to keep discovering new feeding grounds, never truly resting. So where was all this food found? And what kind of life did this need drive it toward? The answer is going to genuinely surprise you. And right here, we come face to face with the toughest part of Triceratops's life. Because this dinosaur didn't just stay away from meat. It never consumed meat at all. Triceratops was entirely herbivorous. So all that power, all that weight, all that incredible structure existed solely to eat plants. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But it was anything but. Think about it. A creature that had to consume dozens, perhaps hundreds of kilos of plant matter every single day. Where was it going to find all of that? What if there's a drought? What if the seasons change? What if the other members of the herd had already stripped the same area bare? Then you have to move without stopping, without tiring, because if you stop, you die. And right at this point, a second danger emerged for Triceratops: the struggle for food. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of Triceratops from the same herd shared the same land, and every one of them wanted the same thing: food. Who would get the best leaves, the freshest grass, the most accessible plants? Sometimes that competition passed in silence, and sometimes those powerful horns came into play. But here's what's surprising. Despite all these challenges, Triceratops managed to survive for millions of years. So how did it do it? The answer was hidden in its greatest strength. And that strength was neither the horns nor the frill. That strength was unity. Have you ever stopped to think why even the most powerful creatures on Earth choose to live not alone, but in herds? And right here, we come face to face with the most human side of Triceratops. Because this creature was never alone. Never. Not once. Triceratops lived in herds. And these herds weren't just a group of animals moving together. These herds were like a family. Think about it. Dozens of Triceratops moving side by side. The elders up front, the younger ones in the middle, and the young placed exactly where they were safest, right at the center. So what happened when danger appeared? The herd didn't scatter. Quite the opposite. It tightened. The adults turned outward, pointing their heads toward the threat, and the sight that emerged in that moment was one of the most striking images any predator could ever witness in its lifetime. Dozens of horns, dozens of frills, all facing the same direction, all ready. Even a T-Rex faced with that sight was forced to think twice. Because approaching the herd meant an extremely risky move, and perhaps the most surprising part of all. Thanks to this herd structure, Triceratops managed to survive for generations, and even the weakest individuals were able to stay alive under the herd's protection. But right here, I have to ask, how does a creature this powerful, this intelligent, this organized, one day vanish from the face of the earth? The answer to that question will shake you to your core. But first, leave a comment below this video. Who do you think was stronger, Triceratops or T-Rex? Let's discuss. But standing together wasn't always enough. Because sometimes the danger was so massive, so sudden, that even the herd could do nothing. And in those moments, the true strength of Triceratops revealed itself. Alone. Think about a T-Rex, one of the greatest land predators to have ever existed in history. A creature capable of overwhelming anything in its path with its enormous jaws, razor-sharp teeth, speed, and weight. So what happened when that creature came face to face with Triceratops? Triceratops didn't hide. It didn't disappear. Instead, it took that familiar stance. It lowered its head, planted its feet into the ground, and locked its eyes onto the T-Rex. And then, it moved forward. With all those tons of weight, with all that determination, as those powerful horns extended forward, the T-Rex had only one choice: either back down or face that deterrent force head-on. And the research scientists have conducted on fossils proves exactly that. Interaction marks consistent with Triceratops's defensive structures were found on T-Rex bones, and those marks had healed. So what does that tell us? The T-Rex had approached, Triceratops had responded, and the T-Rex had survived, but never came close to that Triceratops again. Because that lesson was not the kind you forget. So let me ask you, if you were standing alone, face to face with the greatest predator in history, what would you do? But every powerful creature has a weakness, and Triceratops was no exception. This giant, despite all that power, all that armor, all those horns, could find itself vulnerable in certain situations. The first weakness was speed. Triceratops was not fast, not even close. That enormous body, that heavy head, those thick legs, all of it combined made it slow. When an agile predator approached from just the right angle, those powerful horns of Triceratops could become completely ineffective because it couldn't turn, at least not fast enough. And that exact angle was extremely valuable for any predator. If you're finding this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we still have so much more to tell. The second weakness was far more thought-provoking. The individuals who became separated from the herd, Triceratops that were aging, injured, or had somehow fallen behind, were now outside that protective wall. And out there, in that savage world, even a lone Triceratops was still a target. Perhaps a harder target, but a target nonetheless. And the predators knew this all too well. They waited, patiently, because sooner or later one of them would break away from the herd. And in that moment, the pursuit began. This truth reminded us once again that no matter how powerful Triceratops was, it could never escape the balance of nature. So despite all that power, all that intelligence, all those survival instincts, why did Triceratops ultimately vanish? The answer to that question is the heaviest part of this story, and that part is coming right now. And here we arrive at the heaviest part of this story. Triceratops, one of the most powerful dinosaurs to have ever walked this earth for millions of years, one day vanished in silence. But this disappearance was not brought about by a predator, not by disease. This disappearance came from the sky. Around 66 million years ago, a massive asteroid struck the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The force of that impact was many times greater than every nuclear weapon humanity has ever produced combined. First came an enormous fireball, then a dust cloud that swallowed everything. The sun disappeared, plants withered, the cold set in, and for Triceratops, there was no food left. Those powerful jaws, those endless teeth, that tireless body, none of it meant anything anymore. Because when the food runs out, even the most powerful creature is left helpless. The herds grew smaller, then smaller still, then fell silent. And one day, those familiar footsteps never echoed through the earth again. Those horns never caught the sunlight again. That frill never changed color again. Triceratops was gone. And with it, one of the most breathtaking stories this world had ever known came to a close. But the mark it left behind could not be erased even millions of years later. Because today we are still unearthing its fossils, still telling its story. And perhaps that is its true legacy. The giant that once ruled this world did not simply fade into silence. In every fossil pulled from the ground, in every story told, in every pair of eyes that looked upon its bones with wonder, it was resurrected. And this was the story of Triceratops, a giant that slept beneath the earth for millions of years, stepped back into history with a single strike of a pickaxe, created legends with its powerful horns, communicated with its frill, survived through its herd, and silently vanished with a catastrophe that came from the sky. But never forget, it didn't truly leave. It simply changed form, because today its bones stand in museums. Its story lives on in books, in videos, in the minds of people all around the world. And by watching this video all the way to the end, you have brought its story back to life one more time. You came here knowing very little, and now you leave carrying something most people never find: the real truth of one of history's greatest creatures. If this video moved you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share this story with a friend, because Triceratops left its mark on this world millions of years ago. And today, you can leave your mark on this channel too. In the next video, we will be back with another unforgettable story, just like this one.